all right, everybody. Yes, I am home. Yes. It is from the margins with our friend James Lafont. Jimmy, how are you, sir?
I'm ecstatic. Our numbers are high.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jimmy, not just hi. We broke a record for from the margins in our last episode. We had the most viewership ever, except for our shorts. However, for our long form content, the most views ever. So, I just want to give you a hearty congratulations.
And for the record, our shirts are not doing bad either. We have
That's
improved
true.
in the complete version, but our shirts are more or less have maintained and sometimes go up, sometimes go down. And we have what,
Exactly.
two comments or four comments for today?
We have, if I remember correctly, we had comments at least two, and I believe from our conversations on the YouTube. And I'm looking right now for any conversations on TikTok. So I do recall at least two comments from YouTube and or TikTok. So,
Okay. So, what would you like to start with today? I
well,
see we
Donald J. Trump and President Xi just finished their epic summit in China, and the president is on his way, or at least has returned back to Washington, D.C. What are your thoughts?
first we will know if it was epic after we know what happened. The things that we
Hmm.
know that happened concern me. The fact that China told the president not to interfere with Taiwan and that the $25 billion of weapons that the United States has contracted through contractors to sell to Taiwan would displease him very much. If that went through, that is not an epic resolution. Basically, he's telling us don't do something. That's the first time I've ever known a Chinese president tell us not to do something. They
Mm,
basically are very formal, and this will displease me. It will make me unhappy. No, the way that Chin told us this was point direct. The other thing that scares me about this is that basically I'm not sure what we concluded. Look, there were five key things there that they went for, and none of them
okay.
have to do with peace. For the record, AI, they want to bring AI into China. China is kind of reluctant because their AI is pro spy. They spy on the citizens. We know this. It's not that they don't think that ours is superior. They're just like there were people concerned with TikTok that, oh, that's a spying on
Right.
us. They're concerned that if they use our AI, that so it's a matter of trust, which to me I put it in a different way. Neither country trusts the other, and that's a standard operating procedure. The other thing is basically Thai has told them, "Oh, you reduce the tariffs, or I start selling my rare earth minerals to other countries." Uh, Look, your phone depends on it, your tablets depend on it, the computer I'm using right now depends on it, your electrical cars depend on it, and I could keep going down there. Your smartphones and so on depend on it. So that's something that they have in control. And basically, 95% of all the rare uh, uh, earth minerals, we bring them in from China. That's 95%.
Yeah,
The other
it's a
thing
lot.
that I don't think that most Americans know is that China is in no rush to help us out with Iran. One, basically, Iran has been a good client of them. They've been selling them weapons for years. So as a matter of fact, if you the most of the things that have hit us were made in China, not in the U.S. Some were made in
True.
Russia. In fairness, I can't put it all in their pocket. And second, China has always had a reserve just in case something like this had happened. That at least they could go 6 months without having to buy anything from Iran.
Okay.
So really, right now, the strategy mentioned from China is they're not going to intervene. They want this war to continue going because the more weapons the U.S. wastes, the less it has in case China wants to invade Taiwan. The tariff was something that I think is going to come around at this point. Look, there was a lot of formalities. There was champagne, and they looked like kids jumping up and down, and all the formalities. I just want to see, at the end of the day, maybe in August, exactly what happened. And I'll give you an example of what I'm trying to say. They announced that they were going to buy 200 planes from Boeing.
Okay.
The original contract was for 360.
Mm.
They're buying us. And Boeing has made it clear that if that goes through, that all they can sell is 200, they will have to let some personnel go. Apparently, China decided to buy also from Europe the European
Airbus.
The Airbus. Apparently, that for look, they both have their advantage and disadvantage. And for what China needs them, they're buying from. They're going to buy from both. But this is a blow. So for those of you, hey, 200. No, the original agreement, what verbal agreement was 360. So that's 160. Okay. And if you think that's not a lot of money, that is a lot of money to go. Okay. So I have not heard anybody come and say, other than that, I like the president. We had a good conversation. Everything looks nice. Blah, blah, blah. I have not heard one concrete thing that I can say to everybody, this is good for the U.S. That's the one thing that's concrete that I've heard. I consider it a threat. Don't screw with Taiwan. We're going to invade, and don't screw with it. That I would consider a threat.
Wow.
And if you're trying to say, well, I'm going to make it simple. If he had said that to Biden, would you have considered it a threat? Yeah. Okay. Then it's a threat to Donald Trump.
Of course. Yeah.
So I've seen it. Not impressed with it. I mean, and the thing that Chai said that also interested me, he said he knows how to work Donald Trump, that he's very much into formalities, ceremonies, and being praised. And he made sure that happened. Yeah. But I'm not sure, because as of today, Friday, I've not heard any major announcements. Okay. Maybe I'm wrong. I haven't. So when you tell me, did it go well? Well, results is what I'm looking at. Did it look good? Yeah, it looked good. Did we get anything? No. At least nothing has been announced. So if we didn't get nothing, the fact that our president went over there and took all these companies, CEOs, and they went there. And by the way, did you see Musk with his kid?
Yes, I did. I'm
not going to say anything more. I'll leave it at that. But, I'm in standby. I want to see the end results. If they're good, I will be the first one to congratulate them. But up to now, the only one that I heard is bad, because that's almost half of the planes that were going to be purchased are not going to be purchased. And that's going to be a blow for Boeing. Because worldwide, after the door buses, the doors falling off and the problems that they have with their software, there's a lot of other countries in the world that are not buying Boeing. So that could be a blow. And people say, but it's 200 jets. Yeah, well, the thought was 360. And by the way, outside the United States, the biggest client that Boeing has is China. Yes,
right.
Okay.
Jimmy, allegedly, China is in talks to buy oil from Alaska. What's your thoughts on that?
They could do that. Is that going to affect Iran? I don't know. Is it going to affect us? Yes. Look, do I want our oil going to China? No. Do I want?
Why not, Jimmy?
Well, first of all, I'm helping my enemy. Let me put it this way: I don't consider China a friend. Okay?
Really?
No. China is my competition in the market worldwide. Now I'm selling them oil so they can sell their products and undermine me. When I say enemy, I'm not thinking militarily. Militarily, we're equals. That's not my problem. My problem is My biggest competition and who's been undermarketing me and who's been taking me down in this country is China. So do I really want to help them continue that path? No. Second, I think in a different way. First of all, it doesn't help you and me that China buys oil from them, from Alaska at all, because at the end of the day, that puts money in the pockets of the big industrials and over there and not in the average Joe. This is my concern. You sell oil, the oil that you sell to China is oil that if we need it in 20 years may not be available.
Okay.
I like what Republicans used to say, we're self-reliant. We have enough oil to take care of ourselves. The question is, do we have enough oil to take care of ourselves in the rest of the world? That's a second part. And I don't see China has changed. Like for example, the soybeans discussion that went out during this trip, China said that they're going to continue buying from Brazil because Brazil has always given them good price and good service, and so we might have lost that market with China. But I'm going to sell oil to them while they continue buying the soybean from Brazil. These are the things that, as a marketer, the people of the oil in Alaska make a pretty buck. Am I going to get any benefit from that? No. And really, is that going to deplete the abundance of oil in the United States? Unquestionably. So I am not that.
Jimmy, wouldn't you rather have China buying oil from the United States of America versus Iran? This will, edge out Iran and allow China to buy American oil at market rates instead of illicitly buying oil through intermediaries or buying it on the blockchain for a lot less than what the market demands. Wouldn't that be better for the world economy even?
No. First of all, you're parting from a premise that they're going to continue doing this for 10 years. That if they did that for 10 years, I would agree. The concern I have is that they're going to buy from us while we screw up in Iran. And basically, once everything is fixed in Iran, they'll go back to buying to Iran. Why? It's a shorter distance. Okay, the transportation costs are less. So if you want to talk about economy, the concern I have is this is a temporary solution. We sold the oil to China, and this. But let me ask you a question that may be,
yes.
I know that some of the people talk, they don't think these things through. They just want to make Trump look good, and however they can at a short rate, they do. But this is the problem I have with this equation. You want to sell oil to China, then China will never put any pressure on Iran at all to do anything. Why? They can get it from us. So they don't need to put pressure on Iran. They're not hurting. If you want Iran to hurt, then have China hurt, so China puts the pressure on Iran. But if you're going to solve the problem for China, then China has no incentive to put any pressure on Iran.
However, Jimmy, to take that exact point about China and Iran's relationship, isn't it peculiar that both China and Russia have been sitting out, for the most part, visibly sitting out this conflict between the United States and Iran? And
It's
also,
obvious.
it's been reported that she has committed to not militarily support Iran in this conflict. Trump has allowed Chinese oil barges to tankers to go through the Straits of Hormuz. It appears that there is some cooperation between the ARC countries, America, Russia, and China.
No, there's no cooperation.
Hmm.
Zero. First of all, Russia, what was happening with Iran is they have enough oil. They sell oil worldwide. They're not hurting at all. As a matter of fact, their economy is not hurting at all. Because if anything, they're making money selling oil to the rest of the world because we took away
Sure.
their embargo. We did that.
Russia.
Okay. So let me take Russia first. Second,
Okay.
China, you're right. They're getting their oil. What's their incentive? But you know why they're getting their oil?
What's that?
Let's say you stop a Chinese boat in the middle of and you're the U.S.
Mhm.
Who are you going to have to deal with? China.
If I stop a Chinese oil tanker and
You're going to have to deal with China.
we deal with China. That's correct. There's no
And
doubt.
you don't want to deal with China. Okay?
No,
You
they're
do not want
they're
to deal
not
with- We're
right.
not
They're not the
letting them
enemy.
go through there because we have an agreement. We just don't want to start World War III. Period.
Right. We're just not
So-
allowing any Iranian oil tankers to go through, or anyone who's
But
purchasing
for all the practical
Iranian oil.
effects, the Chinese ones are filling up and paying for the petroleum, which is helping the economy of Iran. This is the bullshit that I hate of the MAGA people. They tend to think or say things that are not true. Chinese boats go up there, they fill up, they pay for that gas. It's not free. They come back with the gas. Okay? And China does not buy little tons of gas. They buy billions of tanks of gas. And they're going up there, they're loading up, they're coming back, they're loading up. And every time they do that, Iran is getting paid for it. So when people tell me it's completely blocked, lie. It's China's going to cooperate. Why? They have access to Iran's oil at a reasonable price, and they have no problem with it. And if anything, there's some secrets that are being wrote around there that China, through the black market, is still supplying weapons to Iran. How true that is, I do not know. But
Sure.
We do know that according to the CIA's report and others, Iran's weaponry is not as destroyed as we were once led to believe.
Correct.
Okay. So at this point, the question is, okay, Iran is selling to its biggest, let me put it this way. Iran is selling to its biggest buyer. 80% of the oil that China buys worldwide comes from Iran. Right now, it's at 50. They're buying from other places, including Russia. Russia, because they lifted the embargo, can sell to China now, okay? With no problem. So basically, they're buying from Russia and from Iran. The thing that might happen is that eventually, if the U.S. continues to do what they're doing, is that eventually this will work out. The problem right now is basically, we have to understand one thing. China is still buying daily oil from Iran. We know that if it's a Chinese mega thing is going through, the U.S. won't stop it. Heck hell, it's landing in Iran, and Iran is loading it.
Mm-hmm.
The problem that the countries that are screwed here are Bahrain, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia that have more than 20,000 ships just sitting there. Because Operation Freedom, after the Iranians shot at one U.S. ship, got canceled. Let's call it as it is. Got canceled by the president. It lasted one day.
Right.
So right now, they're just sitting there waiting to go through. And to be quite honest, if you look at the proposals, it has been maintained by Iran consistently. You open, I open. The one that doesn't want to open is the U.S. So if it's closed right now, but what would China have to worry about? China is not being stopped from doing business with Iran. As a matter of fact, for the record, just for people to know this, Iran's biggest client for oil is China. So when we
That's
say
correct.
we have stopped their economy, you know, in these days of cyber corn bits and stuff like that, bitcoins and
Right.
stuff like that, well,
Bitcoin. Right. Right.
you know,
Because
that's how the
I mean,
person gets its payback. So everybody knows it's corrupt money, but it's money. So at the end of the day, my question is, people, what is the incentive for China to help? It's not hurting. It's buying
right.
from Russia. It is buying from U.S. It is buying from Iran. It's completely supplied. They don't have a problem of inflation. They don't have a problem at all. So
I
basically,
think what the benefit for China um, and continuing not to support Iran in this and working with the United States is that they want a resolution to this energy crisis. And they know that getting 90% of their um, oil from Iran, that's unsustainable. I mean,
no.
this can go on and on and on, Jimmy.
You have it wrong. Let me answer this in a
Okay.
different, in the
Okay.
correct way. The longer this situation hangs on, the more the rest of the world hates the U.S. and blames the U.S. for the situation. We started this war. So, my fact, it's kind of interesting. Israel is shut up their mouth and not said a word and let us take the whole blame for it, even though it was a joint venture. No. I'll call them out. It was a joint venture, but the person taking the responsibility, I don't see one Israel ship in the strait. Okay, let's call it out.
Correct.
Okay, it's us. Okay, we started this war. We were full into it. Right now, if you think that we're winning it, you're an idiot. Iran has waited it out and has basically stopped the stretch of Hormuz and basically forced the price of gas to go up. It's U.S. has used a lot of their weaponry, and China's best interest is to sit it out because it has nothing to lose. It's getting its gas. It's paying fair market. It is taking it to China. It's continuing its manufacture. Its people are not hurting. Remember, the gas that they buy is Chinese gas and is bought by the government, and the government can sell it at any price it wants, and it wants to keep it cheap. As a matter of fact, some of the people who know about inflation, China is not at the same level that the U.S. is in inflation because of that. But the truth of the matter is that China wants to extend this to screw with us. We're the ones hurting. And yes, they're hurting, but we're hurting more. We're the ones who have pissed off the world because the whole world is hurting because of our actions. You might think that they're justified. The rest of the world doesn't. And at this time, there's no plan B as to how to end it. So basically, the Chinese are in the best aspect to say, hey, let the U.S. screw itself. Let the U.S. lose its reputation. Let the U.S. keep wasting billions and billions of dollars on a war that at the end they're not going to win. That is the position of China. China has no urgency to do anything. To help the U.S.? No. To help the world economy? It's in their best interest that the world economy changes from the dollar to the Chinese change.
Ooh,
Instead of the U.S. being a power, that is China. So when people tell me this thing from MAG, I'm going like, do you really think this through? China does not. It's not in their best interest to stop this. Trust me, knowing China, if it was, they would have already done it. They're getting their petroleum daily. They're not hurting.
right.
Are they? And we're not even sure if Iran is charging them at what price. That's the other thing that we do not know. Okay, we don't. We're assuming that Iran is charging them $100 and something a barrel, but it might be different. Okay,
It
so
may be a lot lower than that.
Yes, and so when people say, "Well, it's in China's best interest," no, The worse the economy gets, the better chance it is for China. Country to poverty. So when people tell me, well, but no. Look, when people say this is not our war, yeah, we're out there all alone. Even Israel has said not a word. As a matter of fact, they're alone. And basically, everybody, every country in the world is pissed off of us. Why would China stop that? See, you think of China as more of a friendly country. I don't. China's.
I just think that
you were the one who told me about the channel, the canal zone that the Chinese were investing there, and everybody was angry about that.
Yeah, true.
Well,
however, Jimmy, I think it's time that as sovereign nations, America, Russia, China, and everyone else, decide that maybe war and military action is a bygone issue, and perhaps maybe we all can share in the prosperities that we have as sovereign nations and also as trade partners, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And again, going back to the Monroe Doctrine, America is making efforts to make sure that it's
the Monroe Doctrine does
better.
not apply to Iran.
Oh, it doesn't. Exactly. However, there's no doubt that, and I will protest till the day I die in regards to this, Iran has been very influential in matters here in the Western Hemisphere, with Venezuela, with Cuba, with Nicaragua.
Oh, yes, they have an alliance, but you know who the powers are behind that alliance? Are China and Russia. Don't leave them out. My problem is, I'm not saying that Iran hasn't done what it's done, but it's been backed by Russia and by China. So when you say to me, I want to sell petroleum to China, look, this is what I have a problem with MAGA, a major problem. Iran is bad. Iran is bad. Iran is bad. I'm not saying it's not. But who backs Iran? China. And who am I going to sell oil to? China. Does that make sense to you? Because it doesn't make sense to me. So if you're going to say that Iran is bad, which it is, if you're going to say that Cuba is bad, which it is, if you're going to say that Venezuela is bad, which it is, the biggest supporters of those three countries happens to be China, Russia, and North Korea. So, if, why are we selling oil to a country that we know has helped terrorists? I'm just asking that.
As
countries that have supported terrorists, So the problem is that we try to look, Iran is alone there. And look, and no moron would I be able to argue that. China, Russia, and North Korea is part of the people that have helped. Most of the weapons that hit us were made in China, okay? Let's stop pretending this. Most of the weapons that are in Iran were made in China. So to the,
a lot of them didn't do too well, too.
Well, that might be another thing. But what I'm trying to say, when people tell me Iran, yes, but it's supported and backed by China. China buys 80% of its oil from Iran. They have a deal. They're working together. But so for some reason, the only country we think is evil is Iran. It is, but it's not the only one. And the big power supporting Iran are China, Russia, and North Korea. So when you tell me, let me sell oil to China, I'm going like, do you know how stupid that really sounds? You're selling to a country that will give money to Iran. You're selling to a country who told them in this last meeting that Iran is considered a friend of China. Jay told that to Donald Trump and to everybody. Iran is our friend. Okay? So I'm going to sell oil to that country. Maybe I don't understand the logic. I really don't understand the logic. You're talking about the suppliers of Iran. We're going to help them.
So, Jimmy, to wrap up this segment, was it worth Donald J. Trump meeting with Xi?
Again, I will have to defer until I find out what happened. Meeting is
Sure.
not
Fair
helpful,
enough.
uh, but I don't think we have accomplished anything. If anything, we were insulted. I mean, that
Mm,
don't screw with Taiwan. We're going to do with Taiwan whatever we want. Don't continue selling them weapons. That was not a nice comment. That was a direct threat. And this is the
mm,
country that told us to our face in that same meeting, no, Iran is our friend.
mm, mm.
So you are talking to the friend of your enemy.
Here you go. So, Jimmy, our next topic here.
Yes.
It's been about what, maybe 2 weeks or so since the Supreme Court of the United States made their opinion in regards to Louisiana versus Cayus, and it struck down intentional racial gerrymanders, the Voting Rights Act, Section 2, which allowed such. And there's been a flurry of redistricting activity, particularly in southern states, red states, and here in Florida, Governor DeSantis submitted his map to his special committee for redistricting, and he has signed off on that particular map, which has pretty much left Democrats here on the congressional delegation with a possible 4 congressional districts. There's lawsuits. The League of Women Voters are part of the lawsuits, or several lawsuits filed against the governor. We were talking off camera about how this can go. What's your opinion here, legal opinion, how this may go?
Legal opinion, the Florida Supreme Court is going to back the legislator. They don't have the backbone to do anything other than that.
Mhm.
If they really would want to help the Republican Party, they would turn down this map, but they're going to back it, so that's fine. Uh, Legally, I don't see it. The only issue would be if it goes to the Supreme Court to say, hey, we have to make a distinction with this because we have already had a map in law in our Constitution that you cannot gerrymander. It's strictly based on political parties, and since the Jason who made this map said that his only purpose of making this map was to favor the Republican Party, to have the Supreme Court say, yeah, it's open season. You could ignore state constitutions, you can ignore everything else that you want, and prepare a map that gerrymanders the, the congressional districts, and for that matter, gerrymanders Senate seats, state Senate seats, and House Senate seats bravely. And that will be interesting to see how that does. I'm different from most of my colleagues. I think this map favors Democrats. It really does. This map, the only thing I could think of, it was done by AI. Otherwise, I cannot think that anybody who knows anything about redistricting and creating maps politically had anything to do with this. Jason
Jimmy,
has
I'm
never done
sorry.
it. Yeah.
And we had talked about this a long time ago, and I've talked about it on our other podcast, that the Supreme Court really has kept its hands off of, political redistricting. And there was a landmark case in 2019, Rancho versus Common Cause, where the court stated this, the United States Supreme Court stated that partisan gerrymandering is a political question beyond the reach of the federal courts. And so federal judges have no authority to evaluate or strike down maps purely for partisan political bias. And so, Rancho versus Common Cause is out there. And I always point back to that opinion when, folks have spoke about what opposition they have to this particular map and what they will argue in front of the Florida Supreme Court,
Yeah, but
regardless of the fair districts
no,
amendments.
it's not regardless. That is false. That statute said that they cannot intervene to do that. But the question is, if the state constitution forbids something, does a state still have the right to ignore its constitution and do it? And would that be a question that is a legitimate question to take to the Supreme Court? Because now you're not challenging it on the fact that the map is to favor a party. Now the question is that the constitution of that state then forbids that to happen. Can the state say, yeah, my constitution says I cannot do it, but I can do it? Does that become a constitutional question for the Supreme Court? That's something that the current one, I don't think so. The current one, I would have to agree with some people who would tell me that they would do it because basically that's what they did in Texas. But in Texas, in fairness to them, there was no constitutional part of the Texas Constitution that forbid it. The one here says, by the people, put in by the people of the state, not by 200 years ago, by the people of the state in 2010, saying you can't do this. So basically, would that be a question? Because now it's not the question of saying, well, if it's political, that's up to the states. No. Does the state have the right to ignore its own constitution, do whatever it wants? That's the question that if I was up in the Supreme Court, I would be asking. Does a state have the right to say, yeah, my constitution says I cannot do this, but I'm going to do it anyway? Because my concern is, you could say, well, fair districts. Well, the Constitution here says that we cannot have income tax, but can the legislature say, well, screw it, we're going to have income tax in the state? I don't care what the Constitution says. That's the way you would attack it in the Supreme Court. Not that that concept would be understood by half of the judges there, but that's how I would attack it.
So it's not, if I understand this correctly, I think I do, it's not necessarily about the loss of a black district here in Florida or 2 or 3 or whatever. It's more about the ability to redistrict.
When your constitution says you can't.
Exactly. Good argument. That's a very good argument. Very good. And do you think those parties who disagree with this with the redistricted congressional map, would that be their argument?
It might be. And from what I'm read, that's when they go and say that fair district for business, that's what they're trying to say in a very nice way. Hey, you can't do this, Florida, because your constitution mandates this. You don't have the right to go against the Constitution.
All right.
The Constitution restricts everybody. Okay.
Right.
You cannot, for example, you cannot pass a law here in the United States that says that right now we're going to say that the states do not have the right to do anything. Everything's going to go through Washington. No, the Constitution says very clearly these are the rights the federal government has, and everything that's not here is controlled by the state government. So it's people don't understand. Constitutions are restrictions to the local governments. So we'll see what happens.
That's a very good explanation, Jimmy, and thank God we have you with your legal expertise and legal mind in analysis, because there's a lot of talk, a lot of emotion about Black folks not being fairly represented, losing their voice, and so forth and so on. And that's across the nation. However, here in Florida, as you stated, it's just a matter of doing something in direct opposite of what the Florida Supreme Court has mandated.
Yeah.
So.
And to be honest, I understand the concern, because basically what this act did is repair the years of gerrymandering, the years of Jim Crow laws, the years of taking down and making it illegal. The years of saying to people, you cannot name your son the name you want because it has to have a white man's name. You can all those laws went down. Yes, is this and and now I hear, well, but they're not needed anymore because everything is fine. Yeah, what bullshit. There is racism in this country, and it's not going away. If anything, it's in the uprise. But that's a thing for another day. But the truth of the matter is that when people tell you that there's still going to be 60 people in the U.S. Congress, you're losing all the ones in the South. It's going to go down to 40. Okay, so you still have 40. Well, the problem that I have is that basically to do this, they took Memphis, which is a majority black city, and they split it in three. Common sense would say keep Memphis all together. No, because if we split in three, we make it more Republican, less black. Look, that's not serving the people, that's serving the party. And that I have a problem with. So, we'll see. If there's anything about politics that the pendulum go from side to side. And basically, I'm seeing the device that we've had for years. The North with the South. We've always been divided. The Civil War did not stop it.
Sure.
Some people in the South will think that the South won the war, and but
as a northerner living in the South, that's it's a strange dynamic, and I'm sure we'll be revisiting this specific topic
many times.
Oh, definitely. As we move closer and closer to the midterms and the 2028 election. And this leads us into a quick conversation about Orlando politics. We have a new entrant into the Orlando 2027 mayoral election. And I shouldn't say a new entrant right now as if this person is the newest one, because there's two others. And unfortunately, I don't have their names in my head right now. But this will make 4 entrants into the mayoral election. Jimmy, you want to speak to that?
Let's put it this way. If you know the elections of the city of Orlando, they're completely different from the rest of Orange County. They're not even similar. They're not even the same. Realistically, right now, there's 2 people who are the front runners, Tony Ortiz and Anna Eskamani. Those are the 2 front runners. The other 2, I will see if they qualify. Okay.
Correct. Sure.
The history has been people putting their name out there, and then when it came for the moment of qualification of the petitions, they fizz out. Okay. And one of them I think is a Republican, so good luck. The truth of the matter is that you and I do politics. We advise candidates. And I would say that when I advise candidates for the city of Orlando, it's a completely different figure. First of all, their elections are in March. And to get people out in March is But the people who vote in the city of Orlando consistently vote the same and consistently vote.
Yes.
Now,
that's a good point, Jimmy.
So, are the newcomers going to be able to come up with a plan to change this? That's a good question. I don't know. But I do know that, contrary to popular belief, I would say that more conservative people vote in the city of Orlando than liberals. Just by age.
And we have talked about this off screen, and I want to challenge.
Me right, 8% of the people who vote in the city of Orlando are 18 to 34. That's 8%. Yes, 60-some percent are 16 above.
Yeah.
So
quite the dynamic.
It's quite a dynamic. Can you get motivated enough people to go out and march and to make a substantial change? I don't know, because look, that's what Buddy Dyer ran on the last 30 years that he was the mayor.
That's true. That's very true. And Jimmy, I talked about this yesterday and with you, and I want to challenge our viewers and listeners, and because I am so fascinated by this Orlando City Mayor election 2027. Just done a ton of research, and when Commissioner Tony Ortiz of District 2, I believe, in Orlando City, announced, I was like, okay, game on. You know, it's about 18 months out from the election in November 2027. And I started thinking and started doing some math. We talked about it, started putting together some strategies, and I'm challenging my viewers. If you want to hear or see the strategy for how an Anna Eskamani or a Tony Ortiz could win, we'll share that. We'll share that on Jimmy's show. However, for you guys, we'll need at least 1,000 views and 500 likes. I think that's fair. I think that's fair because typically we would charge people for this, and it's just
and typically I'm going to say this. I really don't know, and this is my problem. March elections are a completely different phenomenon. Okay,
well,
they are a completely different.
But this election is in November, Jimmy, and then if there's a runoff, it'll go into December. The municipal elections, the other Orange County cities, they're in March.
Okay, well, normally the city of Orlando does but still it's 27, and still it's a non-presidential election. So you could throw it whenever you want. It's not going to make much of a difference. Is there a presidential election? No. Constitutional officials? No. County commissioners? No. It's strictly a city. So that's the other phenomenon that you have to understand. You could call it in November, but in 27, nobody goes out to vote. As a matter of fact, even this year in 26, the numbers are lower than 28. That's a given fact.
Yes.
That's
vote by mail numbers. Yes.
Okay. So in 27, the only election is the city of Orlando, or maybe the city of Forcoe or something. But
sure.
Are we voting for the president? As a matter of fact, let me put it this way so people understand this. In November 27, we do not know who the candidate for president for either party is going to be.
That's right. That's true. That's very true.
So when you say, well, let's go out to vote, yes. And it's going to be an interesting thing. And for those of you who keep saying this mistake and this falsehood, let me clarify. I love Anna. I've known her for years, consider her a friend, but she's not going to be the first female mayor of the city of Orlando. That honor belongs to Glenda Hood.
That's right. That's very true.
Oh, we're going to have our first woman mayor. No, you're not.
No.
Be yourself. Okay. Well, if you're going to do your propaganda, at least get your facts straight. Glenda Hood was a mayor here. I know Glenda. She's an excellent person. She was a great mayor. She was a city commissioner who became a mayor. So with all due respect, she's entitled to run, but don't crown her as a first woman mayor, because that's false. Right. I mean, it's the other day I saw somebody who knows Glenda said, Glenda's pissed off. I said, why? But see, they forget about the person that was here 2 months ago. Okay, so as a matter of fact, yes, we're about to replace a county commissioner. Somebody said, "Oh, this is going to be the first time in a long time." No, it wasn't. We had the son of Mel Martinez replace Mindra Fernandez when she was put in jail, and that was not long ago. Okay, so people, you have a short memory. The old fart reminding you stuff. That I love this. I'm the old fart, and I'm reminding you of our history. But so, yes, but you give us the likes or give us the views, and we will release the information. And it's not that complex, believe it or not.
It really isn't. And if we're anywhere close to what either Tony or Anna does in regards to the strategy that we think they will be using, I think is brilliant. However, if it's not anything close to what we're thinking of, then we're the brilliant ones. Because I
Yeah,
would definitely use this.
and by the way, there's something else that you have to understand. Let me tell you something about politics of the city of Orlando that many of you do
Mhm.
not know. There was recently 2 city commissioner elections.
That's
Okay?
right.
One was backed by was won by the person that was backed by Anna, and
That's
one
right.
was won by the person that was backed by Tony Ortiz and his group.
That's correct.
So they're one of one. So they have their strategies. So for those of you who are thinking, they're just going to go there, no, they have their strategies. How effective
Yes.
are they going to be? It's a good question. But I would give right now, and this is going to sound difficult. I would put them 50-50. I don't think there's a front runner.
Jimmy, I will say the same thing as I thought this out over the past week, ever since Tony's announcement. I would give it 50-50. And I'm looking forward to an exciting election and seeing these strategies play out.
Oh, this is something that I have to say. Now I'm going to say one thing. I'm going to make a bold prediction, which is going to come true. After 30 years, the city of Orlando is going to have a new mayor.
I'm sure. I'm sure that'll come to a surprise for Buddy Dyer. Yeah, 25 years. My goodness gracious! As a matter of fact, Jimmy, I would give Tony a slight advantage. Believe it or not.
Well,
Yeah.
based on what? Based
Oh,
on he
now
was
that
a police
I
officer and Anna comes from, it depends. Look,
it depends, but I think there's something that Tony has um, that will make itself more relevant and more visible as you get closer and closer to the cycle presenting itself. I would move closer towards Tony having a slight advantage over Anna, and that I will put on in a special episode behind the paywall or whatever. But we're gonna have to get those likes and those views in order for this to
okay,
become
yeah,
public.
let's stop talking because then there's no incentive for them to.
Exactly,
But,
exactly.
okay, so what's our next topic? Or we're going to go
So
to the
let's
comments.
let's talk about those comments, Jimmy,
Go for it.
from the
Yeah.
last episode. And again, this last episode, people tuned in, they liked, they made their comments, and it was something special for us. And it was close to 400 views. That's great. And let's see, let's look at the comments from that particular episode. So, um, the first comment comes from Brian Sofer 5779. He says, Americans have woke up. They're done with crooked Democrats cheating elections based on race. Declaration of Independence clearly states that people have the right to abolish any destructive form of government to our life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Democrats are that destructive form. And that's from Brian Sofer. And and also to go along with that comment, Carl Hungus, 2521, Carl replied, well said. So, Jimmy, in regards to our last episode, Wake Up USA, they're lying to you about redistricting. Any comment in regards to what Brian said?
Brian, you're entitled to your opinion, but you're not entitled to mislead and lie to the American public. The Voting Act was supported and backed by both Republicans and Democrats in the 60s. As a matter of fact, just so you shut your mouth up, the fact is that it was introduced, backed by Republicans and there were more Republicans who voted for it in the 60s than Democrats. Because back then, Democrats were the Republicans of today, the people who think that race is something that should be discussed. So go look to your facts and you will find that the Voting Act was supported by both parties, but more Republicans voted for the Voting Act than Democrats. Okay? Let's start with that. And when the it was passed, this state was a Democratic state, and at least half of the congressmen from this state who are Democrats voted against it. Go get your facts. So stop saying Democrats did this, because this is not a Democrat thing. But let's go closer. It was re-voted in during the 2000s, and it was voted by 95 votes in the Senate, which at that time was majority Republican. It was voted by a majority in the House, which included Republicans. Well, you Republicans trying to pretend that this is something that was done by the Democrats, you're full of shit, and you need to find the facts. Stop lying to the American public, both of you, that this is a Democrat issue. The Voting Act was passed by both parties, was reaffirmed in the 2000 by both parties. 95%, 95 senators voted for it. Okay? 95.
Right.
Both parties. So, I'm not trying to say that the Democrats don't believe in this, but stop the bullshit that is a strictly Democrat thing. Nothing has passed through the Senate with only Democratic vote. This was voted unanimously, overwhelmingly by both parties. And I was going to say it again. This was voted in by both parties. And it wasn't until a group of racist people decided to take over recently that changes were. Bush never proposed any changes. He was the president. Okay. Before him, his father never proposed any changes. Before him, Ronald Reagan never proposed any changes. And I could keep on going. As a matter of fact, I'll go a step further. When they made the contract with America, Newt Gingrich, in 1992, they didn't touch or try to touch the Voting Act or to change it. There was no proposed legislation through the Republican House and Senate that had control between 92 and 2006. So, with all due respect, if you want to try to say that this is something that is Democrat, learn your history, because you are talking bullshit. Both parties back this.
Okay. And our next comment is a comment directed towards the Democratic Party. And the name is, it's a long name, Mr. ALMNTHWY Femnin 5783 says, the Democrat Party has morphed into communism. What's your thoughts on that?
I don't know what you're talking about. I really would like to know what you're talking about. Are there people with communist tendencies in the Democrat Party and people with fascist tendencies in the Republican Party? I'll accept that. Mm-hmm. Do they control either party? No. As a matter of fact, if anything, the MAGAs who have more people who are fascists would be more in control than that. Woke is not communism. And for the record, for those of you who do not know that, your president was just kissing the ass of the biggest communist member of this country when he went to China and he wanted to do business with a communist. He wants a communist to help him out with the war in Iran. So if we could deal with China, who is a communist country, and they don't even try to pretend that they're not. They call themselves that. So people just calling us the Democrat Party communists. Look, let's stop this stupid war. Not every MAGA is a fascist. Not every MAGA is a racist. Not every MAGA is anti-American.
True.
And not every MAGA is anti-war.
That's
Okay?
true.
But not every Democrat is woke. Not every Democrat is a socialist. Not every Democrat is against democracy. Let's be honest. You've had good Democratic presidents, you've had good Republican presidents, and you've had good governments. My concern is that we keep calling each other names, and that's not nice. So if you want to say that Democrats are liberals, yeah. Communists, that's kind of stupid.
We have one more comment from TikTok. This was a short that or TikTok that was from the last podcast, and the short was called "Why This Redistricting Could End DeSantis's Career." And I remember you spoke to that. And this is from Charlie Hayes 2 on TikTok a day ago, stating state representation should reflect voter rolls. If 40% of your citizens are registered Democrats, then 40% of the legislators should be Democrats.
That's interesting because right now, the largest party of growth in the United States is NPA. Should we give them the 33% that they have in as? Yeah, maybe we should. Look, the problem that I have is not saying that if 40% of people register on this party, they should be these seats. My problem is I'm going to avoid these people from having representation, and I'm going to make a map that favors, for the record, 46% of the population. Well, wait a minute. I take that back. Are the Republicans really 46% currently? I'm not sure. I think they're 42. Okay. The majority, the people that are registering to vote, 2-1 are registering as NPAs.
That's right. Yes.
Should they have representation too? I don't have a problem with them having a representation. And if you really want to be honest, our founding fathers really did not like the idea of two parties. They really did not like it.
That's right.
But we ended up with two parties. And now, if you're from one party, you have to hate the other. And, you know, it's kind of interesting, but no. Should they? Yes. I reverse that. Should one party, because they control the House and Senate, block the other party of obtaining equality? That's an interesting question. And my answer to that would be no to either party.
Right. Wow. All right. I think it's time for the fuck ups of the week, Jimmy.
Oh,
what you got for us?
Okay. I'm going to start with the Democrats because I want to close with the Republicans because this one is major. This is one that's going to be used until 2028 every day. Okay? Look, right now, the Democrats do not understand how to create leadership. Right now, they're crying because of this redistricting. My people in Texas tell me, because I have not studied in Texas, that there's ways of getting Democrats elected. Here in Florida, there's district with 1% Republican. That's a toss-up. Anybody can win that race. There's ones with 3, there's one with 5, and even when we sat down and discussed the new one for Darren Soto with 7, we think it's doable. 12% is something that is unattainable, but 3% is a thing. Stop crying about it. Get together and start taking districts that are pink, that the Republicans think they're going to win. Find good candidates, put them in office, and end up with maybe, if my numbers are right, you could end up with 9 congressmen in the state of Florida that are
Okay.
Democrats, and the others would be Republicans. And by the
Mhm.
way, that would be more than it is currently. Look, numbers are numbers. And that's why I keep saying it was done by artificial intelligence because it was a command. Give me this. Nobody who understands politics like you and me would say, hey, a 1% district Republican is a safe district for a Republican to run in. You wouldn't say that. Neither would I. 3%, you wouldn't say that. Neither would I. 5%,
Yeah.
you would not say that. And particularly with the amount of independents here, who would decide that election? Granted that everybody votes Democrat who's a Democrat, everybody votes as a Republican. You have a 1%, and the 51% of the independents go either side, they decide that election. And that's what they don't understand. And you stop crying, get yourself organized, and let's run some good candidates here in Florida, and you'll be surprised that you could end up with more than 4 districts. You might even end up with 9.
Wow.
There's a district here that's 1% for Pete's sake. 1%. That's
Need
why
good candidates. Well funded.
it's AI because it was told, do me this. And they did it. But they don't
Yeah.
think of AI doesn't think, well, 1% is not good enough. You really need 5 or 6. 3% is not good enough. But somebody saw the map and it looked pretty to them and said, send it in. It was never analyzed by anybody else. Now the fuck up of the week for the Republicans. I'm going to quote somebody. This is something that's going to be used by Democrats and independents all the way to election day. I don't think about the Americans' financial situation, not even a little bit at all. All I care about is Iran. That was recorded, and that came out of the mouth of the President of the United States. And let me stop you before you start with your bullshit. If Joe Biden says something like that, you'll be having a field day.
Yeah.
So don't be surprised that Democrats have a field day with this. And you know what? He has not rectified this. He has not said, let me sit down and realize that this is a screw up. What I meant was this or that, which is what all of you MAGA people are trying to come up with. Again, it's all about the economy. When your president is saying, I don't care about your financial situation, I don't care about your financial situation. Well, if I don't think about it, what's the difference? There is none. There really is none. I don't think about their financial situation, not even a little bit. Wow. If that is not the fuck up of the week, I don't know what it is. This is something that you take that 18-second, by the way, I know it's 18 seconds because of the little things that they have posted on the internet. So it says 18 seconds. So how does he know that? That's how I know it. Okay. 18 seconds, and you keep putting that in ad after ad. This is the president that you have. This is why everything is more expensive. This is why you pay more for gas. This is why you pay more for milk. This is why you pay more for eggs. This is why you pay more for. Believe me, you put it in a silver platter. Look, there is a thing in politics. Words matter.
Oh yeah.
What you say matters, and what you say could come back and haunt you. Donald Trump thinks, well, first, I don't give a shit about the Republican Party because I'm not running again. I've never cared about the House or the Senate because I'm going to do whatever I want. I don't care. Now, what he's gotten a step further, say, I don't care about the American people and their financial situation.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, he was asked. He could have said, look, I understand that you're hurting, and I'm asking you for your support because we have to deal with Iran and the nuclear. No. I don't care.
Right.
I don't even think about it a little bit.
Mm.
MAGA people, I'm going to say this in a very respectful way. The way you do politics in a correct way is, hey, if the opposition has said this, would you have a field day with it? Yeah. As a matter of fact, most of the ads that were put out by the Republican Party in June of 2024 were Biden's mind gone during the debates. Right? Brilliant strategy. Correct strategy. they're going to use this against you. And the worst thing is, I don't think this is going to be the last one.
Mhm.
That's what really concerns me. I don't think he does not think before he talks. He doesn't. That's one of his faults. He's not perfect, for those of you my guy. Well, no, he's not. And this is going to come back and hunt you. And this is the fuck up of the week, because it's not Joe Blow, a congressman from Iowa. This comes from the leader and the head of the Republican Party.
Mhm.
So you can attribute it directly to the Republicans. Because sometimes you go, well, that was Joe Blow. He's not, no. Donald Trump, if there's one thing we could agree on, he's the head of the party and he's the president of the United States. And what he says is, and by the way, you know what's really more problematic with this whole thing? The deafening silence from all the elected Republicans, not even trying to cure it. Not even trying to say, well, he said this, but he really meant that. No, they have just, because they know that if they say something, they're going to fuck it up more than it already is.
Yeah.
So with that, remember, if you give us 1,000 likes, we will give you the strategy of how these two people who are running for the mayor of the city of Orlando can win. So
Yes.
with that, oh, so now you're going to be a White Sox fan. Okay. That's good.
Oh, Jimmy, they're the hottest team in baseball right now, and they play the Cubbies this weekend. So, good guys wear black.
Ooh. Oh, so is that why they called it the black?
The Black Sox.
Yeah.
That is something notorious. That was last century. So,
Oh yeah, but they
game.
made a movie with Charlie Sheen and all those nice guys about it.
Field of Dreams.
Yeah. So it might be. As a matter of fact, some people say that's the curse.
They won in 85, and I've been waiting ever since then. Or was it 85? 2005. The Bears won in 85. 2005.
Yeah. 21 years ago, for the record. But
yes,
nobody's counting. But you know, I have no thing. So if you're a White Sox fan, I'm good.
right.
Now, if you tell me you're a Yankee fan, we have a problem.
There you go.
I'm a Met fan. Okay. With that, subscribe, comment, like, dislike, and anything else that you want, we're here. I would answer, just like today, I would answer your comments. I promise you. With that, take care, and I will see you next week.
All right, Jimmy. See you next week.
See you next week.